All right, hey, it's Rob, and I was inspired today to talk about what it used to be like when I attended the Berklee College of Music in the mid to late 80s, basically the Stone Ages. I've been watching a lot of videos from current Berklee students, and I'm always interested to see what the facilities look like and to hear them talk about their experiences in the classrooms and what it took to, apply to this school, the audition process, all that kind of stuff. It's all very different from what I experienced at Berklee. And so I thought maybe if you are a person out there who is interested in attending Berklee or maybe currently attending Berklee, this video might be of interest to you just as a, you know, historical perspective on what it used to be like at the school. Maybe some things have really changed and some things, might still be similar to this day, but we'll see. Anyway, so yeah, I'll get into maybe a little bit of my background, how I got interested in Berklee, how I got accepted, and my experiences at the school, and try to do it in under 40 minutes or something. But I do tend to go on these videos. I'll try to be concise. Anyway, so I got interested in music pretty early. I started playing guitar when I was 12, but I was just, a guy who noodled around, and I played in a couple, garage bands and that kind of stuff. I had really no formal music education. Because I played guitar, I was not in any bands in high school. I did not, play with the marching band or any jazz band or anything like that we had. Just, either had not occurred to me, or I just wasn't into that kind of music back then. The stuff I liked, that I played on guitar, like, really didn't transfer over to any of the formal classes offered at the high school. So my music education was just anyone else who took basic music classes in high school. Not very much, but what I did get interested in was the high school radio station we had. I started working as a DJ in 10th grade. In 11th grade, I was the music director. I got to pick the format, and, I got to go through tons of music and decide which songs, we would play on the air, and put together, different formats for different types of music that we played. We had pretty much, we called it something for everyone. We had classical and jazz and R&B and easy listening in the morning and rock at night. And we just had, a bit of everything. So that was a musical education for sure for me, to just go through all these records and get exposed to all this kind of music that maybe I hadn't heard previously. The last year I was the program director of the station. I ran the station, and so all that experience got me really interested, not so much in being a DJ, which I had never really considered doing, but what I really liked was the radio production, was the recording of we would do, promotional spots, and we would record public service announcements. And because we were a high school radio station, we had to actually, I think, once or twice an hour, do a public service announcement, and we would get this, script in from some group somewhere, and it was, I believe, part of the FCC regulations that we would read about joining the army, or something about the cancer fund, or whatever it was, different things of general public interest, traffic safety we would do. So we would record these spots, and like I said, what I got really interested in was the recording side of it. Was working with, we had a Revox reel-to-reel tape recorder that I learned about, and learned how to edit, and learned how to record, and get the proper levels and that kind of stuff. And so that's kind of what I really got interested in. And I started attending Michigan State University. That's where I originally attended school. Continued to be interested in this kind of stuff, but there wasn't really a curriculum for that. I was still involved in the radio station at MSU. I was involved in concert promotion. But again, what I really was into was, and I didn't even really know much about the jobs or what would be available, or what a career path was, or how I would learn about this, but the production side of things. So I had an internship after my freshman year, and I worked at a local recording studio. And after I did that, I really was kind of hooked. This was a professional studio. We had artists like Bob Seger would record there, and so it kind of got me into that whole world of working in studios and music production and all that kind of stuff. And I, started to look around and realized that there was a school that had a music production degree. I had gone to Michigan State University for 2 years as a no preference major. I hadn't picked any major, and I probably would have ended up in communications or some general thing that really wouldn't have done much for me. But I had some kind of idea that if I went to school like Berklee, I would come out with a specific degree. I would actually have a skill I could use and go out and get work or whatever. So I cut off the corner of the Berklee ad in Rolling Stone magazine. It literally was a little teeny corner that you put your name on and your phone number and whatever. And that was my application process to Berklee. They called. They sent some materials over. We agreed to drive to Boston and met with one of the advisors or somebody or other with my parents, and they talked about the school and what it was like to go to Berklee. And of course, then I was hooked, and I just really wanted to go at that point. As far as the audition process, well, there was no audition process. I did not have to play guitar for anyone. I did not have to make a video, which didn't even exist back then, basically. But all I had to do was just declare that my instrument was guitar and that, I intended to be a music production and engineering major. Although, of course, when you first start attending Berklee, you're taking more general courses. You don't even start that program, I think, till the second year I was there. Every time I try to make this video, some weird noises happen in the background. Anyway, so, yeah. Very different than today when, of course, you have to audition. You can do it by video or show up in person or go to different places. And there's clearly an expectation that you have some facility on your instrument. Like I said, nobody ever heard me play guitar until I got in my first private lesson. The teacher was a guy named Mike Ide, who actually just passed away like a month ago or something, a couple months ago. So nice guy, and he was one of my first private guitar teachers. But for me, the whole motivation was to get into music production and engineering, one of the few places that you could get a degree in this that would give you a bachelor's degree and, give you the knowledge on how to, work as a recording engineer, a record producer, what have you, and work in recording studios. And that was my thing back then. So I was lucky enough to have parents who could afford to send me to Berklee. Now you're going to laugh at this if you're attending Berklee now or have been in the recent past. Tuition, I believe, and I should fact check this, but I've told this story so many times, I'm pretty sure that the numbers are correct. Tuition was $9,000 a year. So that's it. When I attended Michigan State, I remember it was $1,500 a quarter. So you would go for 3 quarters. It would cost you $4,500 a year. And Berklee was double that. It was $4,500, a semester, and you would go for 2 semesters or whatever, unless you wanted to go for the summer. I did go the last summer. But anyway, so I think it was just double, and hey, double was still double, and, still meant that I was going to spend a lot more than I would have at Michigan State, where my whole degree would have cost $20,000. So instead at Berklee, it cost closer to $40,000 or something. Since I already had 2 years of college, I passed, got credit for like a year worth of my basic intro classes. So I shaved a year off of my Berklee, experience because I had previously gone to college. So I got to get out of a few classes or whatever by taking some qualification tests, that kind of stuff. Anyway, so Berklee for me was very eye-opening and a very stressful experience. I had never, like I said, been in any real instrumental classes or, any of the music program that my high school offered other than just a general music class everyone would take. And to sit in a class and have someone point at you and have you do sight singing in an ear training class or whatever, like, that just, I was scared to death. It was not anything, that I was prepared for. I could read music. I had enough knowledge. I had a good class, actually, I think it was for a year at Michigan State, which I enjoyed, and I kept taking, and it was the, basic music theory or whatever. So I kind of knew how a chord was formed, and, I had learned how to read music either on my own or just through classes or whatever I had taken, but, I could not sight read. I couldn't sit down and, read through something on guitar unless it was very rudimentary, very slowly. I had and probably still to this day have very little rhythmic knowledge. Like, I can read the notes and know if it's an A or a C or an F or whatever, but like the duration of how long the notes played for, like, if it goes beyond a whole or a half note or whatever, I would still have a rough time. Anyway, so I really struggled with just keeping up with the music proficiencies. I remember I got a D once in like I think it was a sight reading class for guitar or whatever, and I thought, man, I just better buckle down. And I did, and I sat in the sheds there, and I really worked on it so that I could get to a level where, I would not, be kicked out of school for lack of proficiency on my instrument. Again, my main goal being to get into the music production program and engineering. And so I did get in, thankfully, and if I hadn't, I probably would have stopped attending Berklee. Like, I didn't want to be a, professional guitar player or whatever else. Nothing else would have really appealed to me. Luckily, I got into MP&E. I remember I slacked off a little bit even, and I was on academic probation, I think, after my first quarter. I got like a bunch of 2.5s or something. I don't know what I was doing. It wasn't like I was partying or anything, whatever. I just didn't do that well. And probably because of the challenges of keeping up, my instrument proficiencies or whatever. But anyway, at that point, I buckled down and I continued to do well and graduated with a degree in music production and engineering in 1989 from Berklee. Now, like I said, it was a lot cheaper. It was more expensive than the school I was going to, but nowhere near what it is today, where you'll be out with $200,000 in debt unless you have a scholarship or rich parents or I don't know what. Very different experience, different expectations, of course. I think Berklee still lets in about 50% of the people that apply, so Berklee isn't incredibly competitive. But if you don't have any kind of ability on your instrument or whatever, obviously I don't think you're going to get in. And so very different from my experience, where I never had to play a note. I just, popped in there one day and said, all right, here I am, let's get to work. But so as far as my experience at the school, back then there were very few opportunities I would have had to learn other than having an internship at a studio or whatever, and I certainly could have done that, but this was a way to get my bachelor's degree, like I said, and, get training in something I was interested in doing. So I was able to then go, after Berklee, I moved to Los Angeles. I started working in studios. I did it for a few years, and I decided the music business was just not for me. You're sitting in a room with some band you hate blasting, heavy metal or some garbage music that you can't stand at ear-splitting volumes until 4 o'clock every morning. It was a tough lifestyle to hang in there with. Very different today, of course, but anyway, so I actually transitioned into film recording, and that's still what I do to this day, although I've gotten in and out of it over the years. But right now I work as an engineer, a microphone boom operator, and a sound mixer for film and TV shows here in Atlanta. I've worked on shows like The Walking Dead and Stranger Things and that kind of stuff, so I've done lots of corporate videos, just, I've done everything from podcasts and training videos, and anyone who needs a sound engineer who shows up with portable equipment to just record on the day what is happening, either a dialogue or, an interview, or, it could be anything, a scripted program or just, a reality show or anything like that. They're going to use a person like me who works as a sound mixer or a microphone boom operator. So that's how I've been making my living the last 10 years. As far as like the culture and everything at Berklee, and I'm wondering how much of it has really changed, I really felt inadequate. There were a lot of really talented people there, people who had a real solid foundation in jazz, and of course Berklee is a jazz school. I enjoyed jazz, but I really knew nothing about playing jazz or the history of it or anything like that, so I had to learn as I went, and I played in a couple jazz ensembles or whatever, very poorly. I knew the basics, and I learned enough to get by or whatever, but not compared to these, super talented people who you knew were going to go out and have careers, performing and playing and teaching and everything else. I was not in their league at all. Back then, Berklee was very, very much a male-centered school. Maybe the female population was 25%, 30%, I don't know. It was mostly male. It was very hard to meet women at Berklee because there were just so few of them. And I'm sure it's very different today. As far as the facility, we had the three buildings basically. The 150 building, which is still there. That was your main building where you'd have all your classes and where most people lived. It was great because you could roll out of bed and 5 minutes later just go down the elevator if the elevator is working and be in one of your classes. So that was very convenient and nice. The cafeteria was also in that building, so you pretty much could stay in that building all week, never had to really go anywhere. There were other buildings though where other classes were held. The 1170 building, Boylston, which like had the administrative offices. It also had like performance spaces and stuff back then. And you would occasionally have a class over there you'd have to go to. That would be pretty common, actually. And the other dorm was the 98 Hemingway building, which was a real dump. That's where I ended up my first semester at Berklee, living with a bunch of guys. It was an all-male dorm because, like I said, there were so many male Berklee students compared to the female students. They could get away with having an all-male dorm. Not that that's what I wanted, but that's just where I was. So 98 building was about, I don't know, 10-15 minute walk from 150, so it was inconvenient, especially in the winter and the snow. I didn't have a car. I just would trudge through the snow or whatever every day to go to class. But quickly realized that was not where I wanted to be, so I got myself a roommate over at the 150 building. That's where I spent most of my time until the last summer when I had one class left over and I lived off campus. But 150, like I said, was very convenient. The facilities, of course, were, not great. It used to be an old hotel that had actually had a major fire, and it had been retrofitted over the years and whatever. The college had adapted it for their uses, but, there were rats, and it was nasty, and the food in the cafeteria just sucked. It was terrible. So, matter of fact, I sat with Lee Burke, the president of Berklee at the time, who also just passed away. And he had these investors, or I don't know, somebody who came, I think they were Chinese and they were coming to see the school. Maybe it was, the parents of students who, prospective students or something. I don't know who it was. But anyway, he sat down and he said, how are you enjoying your lunch today? And that's what I said. I said, it sucks. The food was terrible. They really did not spend a lot of money on it. And, that was a common complaint. Like the school in its day was not cheap, even though compared to now it seems like nothing, but spending whatever, 9-10 grand a year, whatever, you had an expectation the food would be edible, and it often was not. It just was garbage. So we'd eat a lot of pizza. We go to Supreme's Pizza a lot and just go out and eat in the neighborhood or whatever. I mean, we would go to the cafeteria quite often, but it was just terrible. I don't ever remember going in there thinking, oh well, this isn't so bad. And no, it was always bad. But so that's pretty much the rundown of, I think, what Berklee was like in the 80s. I don't know what else I could tell you. We had some great professors. We had some not so good teachers. I mean, you're going to have that in any college. Now, I mean, the difference today is I think people are very much aware of the music industry, what is out there for them, what their career prospects are, that kind of stuff. When I attended Berklee, I knew none of that. I had no idea what was waiting out there for me. Nobody did. We just didn't have the information, the access to the information you do now. And we just went, we crossed our fingers and hoped for the best. All right, that's about all I got today. Later.